Hey guys, it's Christina with My Confection Obsession, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a fox cake. So with the current fox trend, I really wanted to figure out how to make a cake that kind of went along with it. So I have this idea in my head, and there's a lot of pieces that are going to be going into this cake, but it's definitely going to turn out really cute. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I'm going to put it all together. The first thing is I have an already crumb coated and frosted layer cake. So this is just a 3-layer 6-inch cake, and I frosted it with, I call this fox orange frosting. And so that's all ready to go, and it's the buttercream has crusted, and that's important because we're going to adhere our fondant details to that. So cake ready to be decorated, so I'm going to set that aside. Alright, so then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to roll out some of the fondant details. And for the fox cake, he's going to have a white face. So what I did is I actually just cut out my own template with cardstock. And I did fold it in half so it'd be perfectly symmetrical. I definitely recommend you guys do that because we're gonna place the fondant little face on the cake. So first thing, I'm going to cut out a little bit from my homemade marshmallow fondant. And if you guys haven't made that, I will put that link in the show notes. Okay, so I have my little fox face ready, and I am going to adhere this to the cake. So for this, I'm using Wilton Dab and Hold. This is an adhesive, so this actually will help ensure that the fondant really sticks to the buttercream. So this can be used on fondant to fondant, or this can be used on fondant to crusted buttercream. So that's why it's important. Ooh, there's a lot. That's why it's important to already have your cake ready to go. Alright, so after I put my face on, I'm going to go ahead and put my fox's eyes and his nose on here. So for this, I'm going to be using black fondant. And you guys have probably heard me say I do not like making black fondant. It's very difficult. So I actually just bought some. So this is Satin Ice black fondant. I will put the link in my show notes. So for this, I'm just gonna roll out a little bit. And I am just using little tiny an oval cutter and a circle cutter. Okay, so now that my face details are done, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to work on my fox's ears. So here I have a little bit of orange fondant used from my marshmallow fondant recipe, and I just colored it orange, the fox orange color. And I also did make an ear template as well. Just because what I did is I actually, after I had my cake, I practiced with, or I put the cardstock up to the cake and I decided if that was the correct height. So I definitely suggest that you guys do that as well so that you end up with the result that you're happy with. Okay, so after I cut out my ears, I think I'm actually gonna put a little bit of like black detailing on the edges. So I'm gonna use black powdered food coloring, and I'm just gonna add a little bit to the edges of the ears to give it a bit more of a realistic look. So this is Americolor black powdered food coloring. And I like powdered food coloring when I'm trying to add just like a little bit of a touch, because I feel like if I used wet food coloring, then it would kind of make the fondant soggy and I'd have to wait for it to dry, so this is going to be a little bit faster. So I'm just going to add just a little bit. And what I'm going to do to stick these ears on is I'm actually going to be using some cake pop sticks. I'm going to insert them into the cake and they'll kind of prop up our ears for us. Okay, so you can see that our fox is really starting to come together, but one thing I think it definitely needs is a foxtail. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just sculpt this out of my fondant and see what I come up with. So before I put on my foxtail, I am going to add just a little bit of piping around the edge so that it looks a little bit cleaner. So I am just using the same color buttercream, the fox orange, and I'm just using a small star piping tip. So after I add my piped border, I'm going to carefully add the tail, and I know I'm going to cut off part of it. So I just want to place it how I like it first. I'm going to add a little bit more streaking here, like fur. Just gonna touch this up a little bit. So the last thing I'm going to do for my fox is I'm actually going to add a little bit of a flower crown, really because I want a little bit of a color pop and some contrast here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly make some purple roses and some green leaves. And here I have some already pre-made icing. So I'm going to use my flower nail. And this is a Wilton Tip 1M. And I use it all the time for cupcakes, and it's the same idea. Start from the center, pipe around. And I do want my flowers a little bit small so that it kind of fits the proportions of the fox. So I actually already made a ton of these, and I have them in the refrigerator. After you make your buttercream flowers, I definitely suggest that you guys do pop them in the fridge or the freezer for a while. That way when you move them around, they won't melt or anything like that, and they're really easy to work with. So I'm also going to pipe some green leaves. So same thing here, I am going to pop these into the freezer to let them dry. But I did make a ton already, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab those and we'll place them on our fox. So I think the last little details I'm gonna add are a little bit of pink to the cheeks and a few little eyelashes, and then I think our fox is perfect. So for this, I'm using powdered pink food coloring. Definitely don't wanna use wet on this. And I'm getting just a tiny bit. And so for the eyelashes, I'm gonna add a little bit of wet food coloring, and I'm using a very, very fine tipped paintbrush, and I'm going to very carefully paint just a few on. Here we have our completed fox cake, and I think he turned out very cute. I do love making really fun, interesting cakes, so if you guys have any ideas, go ahead and put them in the comments below. And of course, if you did like this episode, go ahead and like it below, and also subscribe to my channel. And you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter.